Yeah. Subscribe to the channel. Karina lives in a middle-class family in a small town not far from St. Petersburg. As a child, she was a child lover, as it usually happens in full families. But this came to an end when the parents of the girl suddenly divorced for her and decided to live separately. Karina wholeheartedly wished to stay with her father, since in her opinion, he loved and understood her the most. An example for everyone. Karina always waited for her father to come home from work and ran to the door as soon as she heard that the door was opening. She threw herself to her father Constantine on the neck, and they could stand like that in the hallway for about minutes. The reason for the divorce between Karina and her parents is not as prosaic as her relationship with her father. They decided to break up because they stopped loving each other. That's what Karina thought at first, but it wasn't easier for her. She blamed her mother Violetta for everything. They had very complicated relationships. Especially now, they have become more severe in Karina's teenage years. They often argued and started a scandal for no reason. In principle, in childhood, the situation was almost the same, and their relationship with age only deteriorated. Then it turned out that before the divorce with Karina's mother, another woman appeared, who later got pregnant with Constantine. And now he has a different family, in which he is apparently absolutely happy. Karina constantly sees photos that the young wife of his father puts on social networks. In fact, the girl even a little jealous of them, especially her stepsister, because now all attention is drawn to her. Karina herself is not bad at school, but she believes that most likely she will not need the knowledge she gets at school. The girl wants to tie her life completely with dancing. She loves to go to the dance, stand behind the scenes waiting for her performance, and dance on stage. Her choreographer praises her, promises Karina a bright future, and she believes in him herself. There is another trouble in Karina's life. It's her father, Andre. This is a real trouble in her life. He met Violetta a year after Constantine left the family. Violetta loved Andre very much, although he was younger than her by about years. In her opinion, everyone around her is bad. Only Andre is always good. But in fact, everything was not quite so. Only before the people around him, this man seemed cute and fluffy. Karina couldn't understand how such a man like Andre could interest her mother. He is young, without a higher education, and recently turned out to be unemployed. It was the first time when Violetta didn't believe her daughter. It all started in the morning, when everyone just woke up and hurried about their business. Andre, get up quickly. You have to go to work soon. My mom, Karina, was screaming all over the house. Andre liked to sleep longer and often was late for work because of this. Karina had been up for a long time and finished her breakfast in time, while sitting at the phone and checking social networks. Today was a day off, but there were dance classes that Karina definitely couldn't miss. By this time, Andre still managed to wake up and go wash his face. To avoid any unnecessary trouble with her father, Karina quickly finished her porridge, said goodbye to her mom, grabbed her bag, and ran to her classes. There were only minutes left, and she still had to go pick up her friend and get to the building of her dance ensemble. On the way, she thought about how strange the circumstances were. Andre never told about his work. Karina only knew that he was a manager in some local bank, working with clients, and that's all. Karina and her friend Alina were very late because Alina was going to be there for a long time. On the way, Karina scolded her friend for this, but suddenly she locked herself in the window of an inexpensive cafe, and the Elite, which the girl often visited with her friends. Behind a long table, the girl noticed something. Holding a girl he doesn't know. It's so weird. He has to be at work. Alina pulled her friend by the hand, thus bringing out Karina and Zomit's sad thoughts. How will Mom be upset when she finds out that her favorite Andriushenka is having fun in the company of some painted FIFA? Thought Karina. After that, she regretted very much that she did not shoot this couple on camera, because then something terrible happened. The same day after dancing, Karina reached the bank where her father-in-law was supposed to work. "Excuse me, can you tell me, is Andrei Koklov on a day off today?" Having picked up the question better, the young lady at the entrance asked the young lady, "Excuse me, but no, a man with such a name does not work here. Maybe you were mistaken by the bank?" Smiling, the friendly worker asked. I was definitely not mistaken. Karina replied cunningly. Everything was going great. Karina never liked her father. He was a hypocrite, often rude, and called Karina, because of which they were always arguing. But before that, Valentina never intervened in their quarrels. Karina decided to tell her mother that Andre was cheating on her. Soon after she got home, Karina went to the kitchen and, looking very miserable, she looked at Andre. Mom, Andre doesn't work anywhere. I saw him today in our elite. He was sitting with some beautiful brunette and holding her in his arms. They were whispering about something. Karina quickly said, Is this true, Andriusha? Violetta asked with an incomprehensible look. What are you talking about? I don't understand. You know how much I work even without lunch, Violetta. Don't lie. Karina interrupted him. Mom, I went to the bank. They told me there that a person with this name does not work with them. Violetta still looked at Andre with an incomprehensible look and waited for excuses, and he gave them to her. Of course, I do not officially belong to the state. Otherwise, I will not be able to receive a jobless assistant. Violetta, I told you that my uncle hired me to work in a bank, so they couldn't tell you that I work there, Karina. And I was not in any cafe today. You must have made a mistake or even came up with some stupid story to put me in front of your mother. Violet, I've always told you that your daughter will never accept me. Maybe I should leave? Karina was amazed by how much her father could influence her mother. He virtually manipulated her, as if pulling the strings, and ordered her to do only what he said. Karina, until the last moment, hoped that her mother would believe only her daughter. But it didn't happen. Apparently, she loved this Andre too much. Violetta looked at her daughter with a sad look. How tired I am of this, Karina. How much I have to endure this. I know that you don't like Andre, but you have to accept that I have the right to love. You communicate with your father, although he changed us to another family. You are a real egoist, daughter, and I want you to apologize to Andre. That day, Karina had to embarrass herself, accept her defeat, and apologize to her father. He was standing with such a look as if he had won the war. But it was just a battle. Since that day, Karina has hated this man and wished that everyone inside her never see him again. In turn, Andre himself became insolent. Apparently, he felt that he could afford everything in this house, and he would not have anything because he believes in Violetta. But sometimes his behavior crossed all the borders. Violetta worked as a fielder sometimes in night shifts. Today was just that day. Karina sat in her room and read another novel. Another girl's passion was reading. She loved to dive into the imaginary world, where everything could be as she wanted. Everything is good. Her occupation was interrupted by the sound of the door opening. Before that, Karina wasn't afraid to stay in her father's apartment, but now she's feeling something strange, because the girl felt the unpleasant smell of alcohol. What are you doing? Andre started carefully. The man was very drunk, barely standing on his feet. And you don't see or are blind. Karina said boringly. What do you need? Why did you come? Andre began to move closer and sat on the bed. I really need money, I know. You're being given a mother. Let them have a little rest for tomorrow, or they'll stop selling now. He asked. And they don't give you a salary at work anymore, do they? What a pity. Get out of here, I won't give you money. The girl replied with displeasure. Oh, you bastard. So I live with your old mother and still have to endure your outbursts? And I can't beat you for educational purposes, my daughter. Come here. Andre already wanted to grab his hand, but the lightning managed to dodge the man's attack. But Andre was clever enough. He managed to quickly rise and swing on Karina. Karina was very scared and screamed, but managed to dodge the blow again. And the hand of the father flew to the girl's desk. The man screamed and sat on the floor to recover from the blow. Karina quickly grabbed her phone, bag, quickly put on her jacket, and ran out of the apartment. When she called her friend Alina, she asked to stay over at her place. The girl was very scared. She decided to tell her mother everything as soon as she returned from night duty. Karina's friend was very happy to see her. Alina's parents were not at home. They often went on business trips, so the girls could sleep peacefully. In the morning, Karina decided that she had to go home, because Violetta had to come back home at a.m. On the way home, Karina received numerous calls from her mother. It turned out that Andre had time to come up with a story for Violetta. She said that her daughter, unexpectedly, without asking him, left the house. Karina's mother was so scared that she called her daughter several dozen times. Karina decided not to answer her calls yet. She wanted to tell everything about her mother at a personal meeting. She was already anticipating the case when Violetta would kick Andre out. As soon as Karina entered the apartment, Violetta immediately rushed to the daughter with questions. Karinaka, is it possible? Could you call me or tell Andre that you want to spend the night with your girlfriend? What happened? Why did you leave? I'm asking you. Violetta asked her. Mom, your favorite Andre almost beat me up. He came to my room at night drunk and began to ask for money. I didn't give it and he waved at me. It's true. That's why I went to bed. Karina screamed so that her mother would believe her, at least now. But Andre said he was going to bed. Violetta looked at her lover. These are your mistakes again, right? Well, when you stop blaming him for everything that's going on around you, will you tell me why you left the house? Karina was shocked and said to her mother, Mom, don't you believe me again? Maybe I should have let him hit me to prove his guilt to you? Smell him. He's been carrying alcohol for a kilometer. I can feel it from here. Andre can let himself drink. What's wrong with that? He's the owner of our family. I don't want to hear anything. You're punished. You can't go anywhere else this month except for school. And you will never go to your dances again. Karina was lost. She didn't know what to do in this hopeless situation. Tears began to roll in her eyes. The girl with all her might slammed the door in front of her mother and her hateful father and ran out of her house. She didn't know where to go next, but she knew for sure that she couldn't stay in her native house, where no one believes her. It's also not an option to go to Alina, since Karina's parents and friends were supposed to be back today in the afternoon. If Karina goes there, Alina's parents will call Violetta and tell her daughter's whereabouts. There was only one thing left. Karina got her phone and started dialing the number. Dad, listen, I have a situation here. Karina started, but Constantine killed his daughter. My little girl, listen, I can't talk right now. I'm on vacation with my family. It's uncomfortable to talk right now, and the connection is interrupted. Come on, I'll call you when I get there. That's it, come on, call me, kiss me. And the connection was interrupted. Karina knew that her father had changed her to another family and daughter, but to such an extent, this could not be. The girl has nowhere to go now. She decided to just wander around the city. The time was still daytime, and you could spend the night at the station. The only one on the street is January, and it will not be possible to wander for a long time. At least at night, all the centers and cafes are closed. She turned off the phone and went for a walk in the streets of the icy city. Surely, during the day, 100 calls came to Karina's smartphone from her mother, relatives, and close friends. However, now Karina did not want to talk to anyone. Time was approaching night. All shopping centers were closed. Karina came to warm up only twice. Once she went to the bakery to take something to eat for the last pocket money. So she reached the city station where she was going to spend the night. Girls never had to spend the night in such places, but there was nothing to do. Having sat down at one of the free places, Karina looked around. She was at the edge of the city at night, going to spend the night at the station. Karina was confused how this could happen to her. There were several more people around who most likely were waiting for their train or were also spending the night here. Thinking about the whole situation today, Karina began to fall asleep. Suddenly, she pulled back when she noticed an unweighty touch to her bag. Karina suddenly opened her eyes and jumped out of her seat. There were two men in front of her, years old in hoods. She was very scared and could not even move from her seat. In the hands of the hooligans was a bag of a girl in which lay an expensive phone, bought only this year. While Karina was standing in the dead end, the men quickly ran towards the exit. The girl looked around and realized that no one was going to help her. She had to run after the robbers herself to save the phone bag. She ran and did not think how dangerous it would be for her to turn her actions. The bandits ran outside and stopped at the side wall of the station building. Karina slowed down and realized that there was no one around. What have I done? Now these two will kill me as a witness, she thought. The robbers, laughing, began to approach the poor girl. What's your name, beauty? If you've already tied up behind us, then let's go with us, have a good time, the bandits said in a humane way. Karina just waved her head and wanted to run away, as the bandits ran to her and grabbed her hands, dragging her towards the small car. I don't want to. Let me go. Help me. Karina was screaming all over the street, hoping that someone would come to her for help. The men continued to laugh. Suddenly, some men approached them from behind. They began to push the man away from Karina and beat them up. The girl, unable to be in her consciousness, fell to the ground and lost consciousness from fear. Karina began to come to herself. She felt how warm and cozy she was lying down. She didn't want to open her eyes. But suddenly she began to recall the events of yesterday. Where am I? And what have they done to me? How my head hurts. Karina thought about herself. The girl, afraid, began to open her eyes. When she got out of bed, Karina looked around and found that she was in a snow-white, well-organized room. The bed was large, covered with leather. A huge plasma hung across and in the corner. Have you woken up? Asked the adult man who came in. Where am I? Who are you? Fearing not to meet, Karina asked. My name is Artem Sergeyevich. You can just be Artem. You are in the house of my mother's owner. She works here as a housekeeper. The owners have left so far, so I brought you here. We have no space in the apartment. Karina continued to look at Artem incomprehensibly. You don't remember anything? Yesterday at the station, 2 of the frostbite tried to put you in the car. We went by the house with a friend, the owner, and wanted to help you. Maybe you can tell us what happened to you? Karina kept silent for about a minute, trying to put everything said to Artem in her head. But she still decided to trust him, feeling that he could understand her. Karina introduced herself and told everything about her mother, her father, and her escape. She never believes me. Even when I told her that Andre doesn't work in any local bank. Karina said sadly, You remind me of my daughter. I would like to help you. Artem started, but Karina killed him. I don't need anyone's help. I want to leave. Where's the way out? Artem showed the girl where she could walk on the street. It turned out that the house where the housekeeper and the mother of the new acquaintance Karina worked is very big and expensive. But how can you bring strangers into someone else's house? She didn't understand. Karina wasn't going to come back home. She called her friend Alina and invited her to a meeting in a cafe to ask for advice. Already in the cafe, they were able to talk about everything. Alina even, as a good friend, offered to pay for Karina breakfast. And she didn't think about refusing, as she was very hungry for so long. Alina advised her friend to return home as soon as possible. Karina didn't want to agree. The friend started arguing about this topic, but suddenly Karina stopped him, who saw a very familiar face. She recognized this man. It was Artyom's friend, who saved her from the robbers yesterday. His face the girl managed to remember well. Alina, I need to go. I'll call you later. Karina hurried to say goodbye to her friend. She ran out into the street and ran up to the man she saw yesterday. He was going to get into the car as Karina approached him. Hello. Do you remember me? I wanted to thank you for yesterday. You saved me. I couldn't thank your friend Artem, but I will thank you, said Karina the man. I remember you, but Artem Sergeyevich is not my friend. You don't have to say that. I work for him as a driver. He asked me to take you to his house yesterday. Is everything okay with you? Karina didn't answer the last question. She didn't understand why Artem Sergeyevich cheated on her. The girls were already tired of the fact that everyone around was cheating on her and didn't trust her. All this Karina decided to say to her new acquaintance. Just in the yard of her yesterday's savior's house, she ran into a man. Why did you cheat on me? I trusted you. She was confused. I said I wanted to help you, but I didn't say that this house was mine to make you trust me. Listen, trust me again now. I figured out how to help you. The next day, I brought Karina home to Artem. He said he found a girl and decided to help her. Thanks to this, Violetta immediately became confident in the man. He said he was the head of the bank in which Andrei seems to work. And as it turned out, no Andrei Koklov ever worked for him. On the same day, Violetta kicked Andrei out of the house with his things on the street. She was crying for a week before her daughter. Karina, in turn, apologized to her mother. They love each other too much. Artyom Sergeyevich, one might say, got attached to Karina as a dear daughter and even introduced her to his daughter Amina, who also danced. A year later, he arranged girls to live in a dance boarding house together. Now the girls started to study together. And Karina now knows that even when everything collapses in life, you don't have to despair. You need to start thinking about what to build in a liberated place and how to fix everything.